As they get older, doesn't that become dangerous? Because then they'll always expect the reward first. I know you're gonna address it later, I kind of looked through, but.
Yeah, you have to do it judiciously. As somebody was saying, don't you just, Rocky was saying, don't you just expect behaviors? Yeah, most behaviors you expect. But if you've been struggling with the behavior, and then all of a sudden it gets better, your child is doing better, that might be an occasion to reward them for something. Okay, where was I? Oh, the other problem with freebies is that it doesn't suggest that acquisition is at all linked to financial resources. Children need to learn that money is finite, not infinite. When you give in to them picking up, a 69-cent toy at the store at the checkout stand, they don't understand what 69 cents is. They only know, I said I want it, and my parents got it for me. As they get older, that translates into more and more expensive things. It's very good to say to children when they want an impulse purchase like that. I have enough money to buy the food that we came to get or the birthday present we were buying for your friend, but I don't have extra money to buy that for you. Now, of course you've got 69 cents in your pocket, but they don't know that. So it sort of begins to define financial resources as finite. Okay. Point number 4. Foster competency in your...
Question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know if this is an appropriate place to ask, but so the other day I went to get my daughter shoes because she'd grown out of her shoes, and I actually felt guilty, and I got my son something too because her shoes were so pretty, and I got him something too. But and again, like, I completely understand where you're coming from. But if I were to take those shoes and give it to her, and let's say give it to her when she does something well, then he also will expect something.
Will he have done something well?
But I didn't need to get something for him, but I did anyway. So.
Because she needed it, right?
She needed it.
Okay.
But then he got really upset because he wanted to try on shoes too, and
He could try them on.
okay.
That would be okay.
That would be okay.
But in our talk last year about sibling rivalry, I talked about how you have to teach your children that everybody gets what they need in this family. Right now your sister needs shoes and you don't. When you need something, you'll get what you need. So you make that distinction. But he can try on shoes if he has fun doing that. It's just not his day to get shoes. And you try and empathize with the long face and, the tears and the frustration. But say, when you need something, you're going to get it too. And children can really get with that. It just takes a few times of doing it. Yeah.
I think a lot of times, because we all do have twins, we try to be fair. So if we get one something, it's all in the name of fairness versus what's right. So
We talked about this last year. Never be fair. Don't strive for fairness. Strive to meet the unique needs of each of your children. And let them know that's what you're doing. That when you need something, I'm going to get it for you or help you with it or whatever it is. Right now, it's your sibling who needs it. So they're getting it. There'll be a time when you need something and you'll get it. So don't get caught in that fairness trap. Okay. Foster competency in your kids. Feeling competent comes from being successful. And one of the ways that you do this is you give up preconceived ideas about what your kids should be able to do. And this is a very important point for parents of multiples. I guess you all have twins, not triplets. You have to tailor your expectations to your children's unique strengths and shortcomings and interests. Just because they're the same age or the same gender does not mean they're going to be able to do the same things. One might be better at something than the other. They probably are. One might be more interested in something than the other. You really have to try to look at them as individuals. And not expect because one is learning to read that the other should learn to read at the same time. Children come born with their own internal time clocks, and even identical twins can have different time clocks. Fraternal twins definitely can have different time clocks, especially if they're boy-girl twins, because boys tend to develop about 6 months more slowly than girls. So you have to have reasonable expectations for your children. Learn something about developmental stages and age-appropriate expectations. Because if you expect too much, then your child is going to feel like a failure. And if you expect too little, what you're conveying to them is a lack of confidence. And the best way to get information about this is a set of books that you probably already know about, called Your 1-Year-Old, Your 2-Year-Old, Your 3-Year-Old, Your 4-Year-Old. How many of you have encountered those little paperbacks?
Are those the like
What to
American
expect.
Pediatric?
No, they're by
Different.
Ilg and Ames. They're from the Gazelle Institute. ILG and Ames, AMES. And they describe in every area of development what's typical. Now, some kids are going to be ahead, some are going to be behind. Not all of the areas develop at the same rate, but it really does give you an overview of what a 2-year-old should be doing, a 3-year-old should be doing. Your schools, if your child is in school, probably have them. If not, they're very inexpensive paperbacks. You can get them on Amazon. Another way to foster competency in children is don't do for them what they can do for themselves. If you do, you risk them developing what's called learned helplessness. Because it's just easier to say, I can't do this, you have to help me. And then mom or dad rushes in to do it, and they don't have to do it. It also conveys that you have no confidence in their ability to do it.
Were you saying foster competence or foster confidence, or both?
Competence, which will lead to confidence. So when you go home tonight, in your mind, go through all the things that you do for your child from the time they get up till the time they go to sleep. And I guarantee you, you're going to find at least half a dozen things that you started doing because they weren't able to, they were too little. And you've continued to do them either out of habit or because you think you're a better parent if you do them. You know, a typical one would be still feeding your children or still dressing your children when they're actually able to do that. A sense of confidence and competency comes from being able to do things. So don't do anything for them that they can do for themselves. If they can pour juice into a cup, let them. If some of it splashes on the table, so what? It shows them that you believe in their ability to do it.
At what point do you let that go? Like, my son, he has moments where he's lazy, he doesn't feel like putting on his own clothes, or he refuses to put his socks on by himself. And, my daughter's been doing it for 6 months, so.
Well, remember I said there's a 6-month gap.
But he just refuses. He knows at some point it's going to be
Does he
time
go
to go
to
to
school?
preschool.
Yeah.
And then we have to, mommy or daddy end up putting his socks
No.
on because we've been waiting for 30 minutes and we're just tired.
What you do is you put his clothes in a bag and you say, well, I guess you want to get dressed at school. So he goes in his pajamas, or he goes in his underwear, or he goes naked, and he gets dressed at school.
That's hard. hard.
You only have to do it once. And believe me, the teachers have seen this a million times.
But then the teachers will end up putting his socks on, or whatever, you know.
No, they don't.
I think he found a teacher that cuddles.
Can I ask, kind of in the same vein, like our daughter's going through I want to be a dancer phase right now, where she wants to wear her tutu, which she can put on herself, but she's also frequently coming up to me and asking for me to put it on. I know she can put it on, but I feel like she's asking me for engagement.
Yeah.
Monty.
So what do you? Yeah, is it?
If
What
it's
is it
just-
like in that situation? If it's
You
a,
say,
can you help me?
I'm happy to watch you put it on, but I know that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the engagement would be in watching her put it on. But if she can do it, you shouldn't do it.
Okay. Because I do some of it, and then I make her do the other part of it, because I feel guilty that she's asking me, like, I feel like she wants me to engage with her, but she can do it herself.
No, what you
Okay.
really risk developing in children is an I can't mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know she can, then if she wants to wear her tutu, she has to put it on.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to help your children move on to more mature behaviors. This is another way you foster competency. This comes up very often with getting rid of bottles, getting rid of diapers and toilet training. If you see that your child is like the last one to be making a developmental move ahead, then sometimes you need to push them. And you need to insist that this is going to happen. Because children are aware if they're the last one wearing diapers, or the last one drinking a bottle, or the last one carrying binkies around. And they may fight you in terms of taking these things away, but after a day or so, your child's walking around very proud saying, I don't wear diapers. I don't use bottles anymore. And they have a sense of pride in their achievement. Don't help your kids excessively with tasks, because that's another vote of no confidence. And also your children should be responsible for their own successes and failures. I was once giving this talk to a group of parents, and when I was talking about this, there was a mom who was starting to cry. And afterwards I went up to her and I said, what was it that I said that was so upsetting to you? And she said, this is exactly how I was raised. My parents did everything for me, and the message I took from it was that they had no confidence in me. And to this day, I have no self-confidence, and it just really resonated for me. So this is how you create confidence in a child. Teach your kids problem-solving skills, the ones who are old enough, so that they can learn to generate solutions to their own problems. If you have a 3-year-old, you can begin teaching them how to problem solve, which is to identify the problem and the goal, to generate as many solutions as you can, to go over those solutions and pick what seems to be the best one, implement it, and then evaluate how it worked. They can use that protocol, whether they're 3 or whether they grow up and they're the CEO of a huge company, because that's how you solve problems. So start that very young with them. If your children are in school, something that will get you on the right track is to find a way to peek into the classroom and see them in action. Because your child who at home says, oh, I need milk, I can't possibly get milk, I'm so tired, I can't pick it up, is walking around the classroom with a pitcher, pouring milk for everybody, asking if they need seconds. And so they have all this competency that they don't show at home. Excuse me. All right, number 5, teach good work habits. This means to insist on completion and perseverance. When things get hard for a child, whether it's putting a puzzle together, or it's their piano lessons, or it's their math homework, your job is to encourage them, to cheerlead, to maybe insist, but not to take over, because that's another vote of no confidence. You need to build their capacity for involvement by having them complete things and persevere until they're completed. It doesn't matter whether your child is doing something like a puzzle, or setting the table, or getting themselves dressed. You want to make sure that they see things through to completion. Even if they have to take a break because they're getting too frustrated, they need to come back and finish it. You can't feel the pride that you get in accomplishment unless you accomplish something. Doing joint projects with your child is a way to teach good work habits. How you plan your activity, you gather your materials, you work to completion, you compliment each other on a job well done, and then of course you clean up. All right, give children responsibility. This is another important ingredient. Assign them age-appropriate chores. Children can start doing chores around the house when they're 2. They can carry a wastebasket from one room to another and feel like a contributing member of your family community. And they think it's fun. It's only when they get older that they realize this is such a drag. They should have a chore related to their own care, which might be putting their dirty clothes in the hamper, or making their bed, picking up their toys, certainly. And they should have a chore that benefits everyone in the family, like setting the table or collecting the trash. The message is that everybody's efforts are needed, that when you're part of a community, and the family is the first community, that you not only take from the community, but you also give back to the community. And you don't pay them for doing chores. And I'm going to say a little bit about that in a minute. Failure to do chores, instead, is followed by consequences. Natural consequences. If it's your child's chore to put their toys away, and they absolutely refuse to do it, I love those big black plastic trash bags. And say that if I have to clean it up, I clean it up by putting it in this black bag, which then goes somewhere where you're not going to see these toys for a very long time. If they don't put their dirty clothes in the hamper, one day they're going to wake up and they're not going to have anything clean to wear. Now, some of your kids are a little young to worry about that, but as they get a little bit older, they do care about it. If they're not willing to set the table and that's their chore, then you can say to them, it sounds to me like you're not wanting to participate in dinner. So if you're not sitting at the table, then you're not eating with us. In fact, you're not eating. So there should be natural consequences to not doing chores. I'm just going to say a quick word about allowance, because except for your 13-year-old, your kids are too young for allowances. But just to prepare you for the
When do you
future.
start with allowances? What age do you start with allowances?
When they understand the value of money.
When is that?
When they understand that pennies are not prettier than quarters, and that makes them more valuable. When they can add money up, when they can make change, when they understand that, which usually comes about first grade. Some children younger, some children a little older. But until they understand what the money means, there's no point in giving them an allowance. You give an allowance to teach money management. That's the whole purpose of an allowance, not to pay for chores. So when you do start to give them an allowance, you don't just throw money at them. You decide on an amount and you say to them, some part of this is going to be for savings, and then you can open a bank account with them and you can teach them about what interest used to be back in the day. You tell them another part of their allowance if it's some charitable donation, and you can name a couple of charities they might be interested in. And then the third part is for them to spend on any acceptable item. And what you hope your child will figure out is if they spend their little bit of money every week, which they can do, that they end up with a bunch of junky stuff. But if they can delay gratification and save it up, they can buy something pretty cool. Okay. Teaching accountability, number 8. What this means is what happens to you is up to you. You need to teach them that their choices determine outcomes. As I said before, it teaches them to choose more wisely. So you let children experience the natural outcomes of their actions. If they leave their Lego pieces lying around and they end up in the black bag, or they end up lost under the couch somewhere, your child has to realize that. If you had put the Legos back where they belong, then you'd have all the parts that you need. But because you chose to let them be wherever, now you don't have the parts that you need. That was a choice that you made. Also, let them make age-appropriate decisions and live with the outcome of their decisions. So you take them to the ice cream store and you say, do you want chocolate or vanilla? And they say, chocolate. So you get them a chocolate cone and they take one lick and they go, I hate this, I want the vanilla. What do you do?
That's it. The choice.
That's it, right? I do know parents who say, okay, I'll eat the chocolate and get you the vanilla. But even with a simple example like that, you need to let them know that when you make a choice, you live with the outcome. You say to them, I guess you learned that you don't like chocolate, and next time you would order the vanilla. The goal is not to please them. The goal is for them to see when you make a choice, you live with the outcome. And as I said, that ties directly into the kinds of choices they'll be confronted with when they're teenagers. You also need to set firm, consistent limits with consistent consequences for noncompliance. So you help children learn to control their impulses. They see the link between choices and outcomes. And they learn to live in a contingent world. We all live in a contingent world. We all live in an if-then world. If we go through the red light, then we might get a ticket or get in an accident. If we don't pay our taxes, then we get in big trouble. If we don't show up for work, we might get fired. You need to teach them early on that they live in a contingent world. Children feel better loved and safer when their parents set limits and boundaries. Now, you don't have to set 1 million of them. I'm not telling you that life has to be all about everything as a rule. But when you do set rules and boundaries, you have to make sure that you enforce them all the time. If you just have one rule, that's fine with me, but it has to be enforced every time. Don't ignore deceptions. One of the things that you'll find with young children is that they will tell you things that clearly aren't true. Some of those things are going to be because they're living in an imaginative world. So you have to distinguish between your child coming in and saying, there are 12 monkeys dancing in the backyard. You don't say to them, that's a lie. That is a bald-faced lie. You say to them, what a fun story that is. What kind of dance were they doing? Very different than you walk into the kitchen, your child has chocolate all over their mouth. And you say to them, you've been eating cookies. And we have a rule about that. And they say, no, I haven't. That's something where you have to enforce the boundary that you set. That's not okay to tell lies, make excuses, blame other people, tell half-truths, errors of omission. But you do need to call kids on that, because as soon as they figure out that they can lie to you and get away with it, you're on a bad path. Okay, teach children to be survivors. I know that what parents want to do is make their child's life as pleasant and bug-free as possible. I see parents standing on their heads to do this for their children. They will intervene with every other parent that their kid comes into contact with, every other child, every teacher, every coach, everything to make sure that their child never has a disappointment, never has a failure, never has to struggle with anything. Don't be that parent